Picture this. It's 1939. Spain is in absolute ruins after a horrific civil war. And out of that chaos, one man, a general named Francisco Franco, grabs total control. For almost 40 years, he would be the one and only architect of Spain's future. So the question is, how on earth did he pull it off? Let's dive in.
Yeah, that's the real puzzle, isn't it? How does one guy manage to hold an entire country in his grip for nearly a lifetime? I mean, think about it. He navigated World War II, massive global changes, and dissent at home. The answer is a really potent cocktail of military shrewdness, absolute political control, and, believe it or not, a huge economic gamble.
All right, so to really understand the ruler, you have to go back to the soldier. Franco's journey to supreme power didn't start in some fancy palace. Nope, it started out there, on the battlefield.
So Franco was a military man through and through, from a very young age. His career was really forged in the fire of these brutal campaigns in Spanish Morocco. And he got known for two things: being ruthlessly effective and incredibly disciplined. And man, that reputation sent him flying up the ranks. By his early 30s, he was already one of the youngest generals in all of Europe. He learned early on to lead by command, not by asking for opinions. And that's a lesson that stuck with him for his entire life. And then 1936 hits, and Spain just rips itself apart. A military uprising against the government, the Second Spanish Republic, throws the whole country into a devastating civil war. And guess who was one of the key leaders of that uprising? Yep, General Franco. Now, you gotta understand, this was way more than just a Spanish fight. It basically became a dress rehearsal for World War II. On one side, you had Franco's nationalists getting weapons and support from Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy. And on the other, you had the government Republicans, who were getting help from the Soviet Union and thousands of volunteers from all over the world. It was like the great ideological battle of the century was having its first round, right there on Spanish soil. After 3 incredibly bloody years, it was over. The Nationalists had won, a total victory. By 1939, the fighting stopped, and there was only one man left standing at the top: Francisco Franco, the undisputed head of state. The general had officially become the dictator. Okay, so the war is won. Now what? How did Franco make sure his power wasn't just a temporary thing? Well, he didn't just take over. He built a brand new authoritarian state where every single piece was designed for one purpose: keeping him in control. First things first, he gave himself a new title, El Caudillo. It basically means the leader or the strong man, and it was a really powerful message. It told everyone in Spain that there was one leader, one final authority, one person in charge of it all, and it was him. And the foundations of his regime, they were simple, and they were brutal. You're another political party? Sorry, you're banned. You disagree with the government? You're going to be crushed, no questions asked. All power, and I mean all of it, flowed directly to him. The entire system was geared toward promoting one idea of Spain: super nationalist, super conservative, and very traditional. And this control wasn't just some high-level political thing. It seeped into every part of daily life. The newspapers you read, totally censored. The people you associated with, they could be monitored. Your basic political freedoms were just gone. The regime even tried to stamp out unique cultures like the Catalan and Basque identities, all in an effort to force this one single vision of what it meant to be Spanish. For years, this system made Spain an outcast on the world stage. It was totally on the sidelines. But that was about to change, and in a way that almost nobody saw coming. You see, during World War II, Franco had to walk this incredible tightrope. He owed his victory to Hitler and Mussolini, but he skillfully kept Spain officially neutral and out of the war. But when the Allies won, his regime, which looked a lot like the ones they just defeated, made him an international pariah. Spain was totally isolated. But here's the thing. Being isolated is terrible for the economy. It was stagnating, and the regime was forced into a corner. They had to make a change. So in the late 1950s, a new team of economic advisors talked Franco into doing the unthinkable:
opening up Spain's borders to foreign investment and global trade.
The result was, well, nothing short of astonishing. The Spanish economy just exploded with growth. It became known as the Spanish miracle. For the first time, millions of ordinary people saw their standard of living shoot upwards. And this is so crucial. That newfound prosperity gave the regime a sense of stability and legitimacy, all while Franco's iron grip on politics never ever loosened.
So when you put it all together, you can kind of see his formula for staying in power. It was built on military might. All political power was centralized in him. And then, this was the genius part, he opened up the economy just enough to improve people's lives and keep them content without giving up a single ounce of his authority. But of course, Franco couldn't live forever. He knew he needed a plan for what came next. So he meticulously planned his succession, handpicking a young prince, Juan Carlos, to take over after him. The idea was to restore the monarchy, and he assumed the new king would just continue his authoritarian system. Let's just say that plan didn't quite work out the way he thought it would.
And that brings us to the final chapter, the end of his long rule, and the really complex, often painful debate over his legacy that is still going on in Spain right now.
Francisco Franco died in 1975. An era was over. And then came the absolute stunner. His chosen successor, King Juan Carlos I, did the exact opposite of what everyone expected. He didn't continue the dictatorship. Instead, he almost immediately started guiding Spain down a totally new path towards a full democracy. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict over his legacy. For some, he's the man who brought stability after the chaos of war and who built Spain's modern economy. But for millions of others, his name will always be linked to brutal repression, to stolen freedoms, and to the chilling silence of a dictatorship. Both of these truths are part of Spain's story. So, how does history judge a man like Franco? Can you ever justify the loss of freedom with economic growth? Is that kind of stability worth the price of decades of living under an iron fist? This is the deep, complicated, and pretty painful question that Spain, and really the rest of us, are still trying to answer.